Okay, let's see if we can do this one more time, guys, because apparently what I suspected was fact. Um, yeah, Windows decided to do a update, a virus and protection update. And again, like I said originally in that video before I deleted it, they need, and I've said this before, they need to let us know when they're going to do that, because not everybody's going to be, all for it. Okay, nobody's going to be all for it. Let's be honest. All right, nobody's going to be all for it. We all know that. They need to be more careful about that. That's what I'm looking at. They need to be more careful. They just need to give notifications. Put it on the upper right, upper left, bottom right, and just say, look, we're doing an update for the virus, for Windows security, virus protection. Don't use your computer for the next 10, 20 minutes. That's all they have to say. That's all they have to say, but they don't. They don't do that because apparently, and to quote JD from NY206, call me a conspiracy theorist, if you will, but it's almost like, in a way, it's almost like in a way they're trying to send a message of, hey, you wanna pause our updates, you wanna pause the things that allow us to allow you, if you will, to run your computer. Like you want to pause it? Well, then guess what? We're going to teach you a lesson. We're going to make sure your computer, suffers a little bit. And to me, it's like, no, you don't do that. You don't do that whatsoever. Okay? You don't do that whatsoever. You don't basically say that. You just come out and you say, look, I don't want people. You just come out and say, look, don't pause the updates. That's all you have to say. Don't pause the updates. All right? That's all you have to fucking say. You shouldn't be basically causing people to be like, oh, well, how can I do my, it's like, why is my computer acting up? Why can't I do a proper live stream? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Don't do that. Just come out and say, look, do the update, be done with it, and we'll leave you alone. But you know why people don't do the update, guys? You want to know why? Because they don't know what's going to happen. Thankfully, nothing really happens, but I think it's also the fact that it's the same old update they see all the time. It's just, oh, we got to build this up, we got to fix this, we got to fix that. And it's like, okay, fine. But what's the point if it's not going to be a big update? Like, I can understand if it's going to change the outlook of the of the computer, for what it is and all that. I can understand that. All right. I can understand if it's going to change the outlook of the computer, like the main menu when you log in and stuff like that. I get it. But if it's not going to be that kind of an update, then don't constantly do it every month. Maybe every few months, just say, hey, we're going to do this update, and that's it. Like the updates that you do regularly, if you want them to be, sustainable and everything, then all you have to do is just say, hey, this update's going to take this much space, it's going to take this long, or it's going to go through all these different steps, and then say the next time you have to update could be within 3 months, and then that's it. You give fans a break. Give fans a break from that. Because if you don't give fans a break, or consumers I should say, not just fans, but consumers, you don't give consumers a break, it's going to piss them off. I know, you know why? Because it pisses me off. And I know I'm not alone in that. Okay? I'm not alone in that feeling. Okay? I'm not alone in that feeling. That's all I'm gonna say. It's like, if you're gonna like update stuff, then don't do it every month. Do it every few months. Do you think it's just me? Do you think anybody really likes it? You know? Do you think anybody really cares? If you will? You know? Do you think anybody really cares? But again, do you think people really care and everything? Do you think they really care if it's a monthly update? No, they don't. They don't care. Because to them, what should matter is if you're going to do an update, do it when it's necessary. You know. Do it when it's necessary and everything. You know. Don't always constantly drag it out for people to watch. That's all I'm saying. Don't constantly drag it out for people to watch all the time. I'm gonna have to deal with. You know, it's real simple. You know, if you're gonna update, say one of the major updates you're gonna do is from now on people are gonna get notifications as to when this is gonna happen or that's gonna happen, and be done with it. That's it. That way people will be like, okay, at this, because like, let's imagine 30 minutes in, you say, okay, we're gonna, you put a notification up and you say, okay, at this time in 30 minutes we're gonna do a virus and protection update. Don't use your computer for the duration of 15 to 20 minutes. You know, let us do our job. If you do that, then fine. People are cool. People are fine. You know, people are fine. And there's an example of that right there. You know, thing. You do that, then fine. People are fine. People are cool. You know. But don't constantly just interrupt them and say, hey, we're going to do a virus scan and everything. Don't constantly interrupt them with that. That's what I look at. Don't constantly bother them with that unless it's really, unless it's going to be important is what I'm trying to say. Unless it's going to be important. So to me, I just have to get that off my chest before I talk some wrestling here, because it really bugs me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that it bugs. So if I'm Microsoft, if I'm Linux, if I'm Apple, if I'm IBM, if I'm Google, if you will, then if I'm going to do an update for whatever software I pre-installed on the computer, then I don't always do it, on a constant basis. What I do with that update is I do it every few months. If it's a major update, I can understand that, hey, the next month we got this coming. We know it doesn't fall through on what we're saying, but just, and then, fine, we get it. You got to do something there. We get it. But again, don't go out there, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go out there and basically say, hey, we got to update your computer. We got to update the computer every month with the same old updates you always do. If it's not going to be something fans or it's not consumers are interested in, then don't put it out there. Okay? Don't put it out there. If I'm you, from here on in, I just say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And that's it. That's it. Here's what I'm going to do. Be done with it. Here's what I'm going to do, and be done with it. That's it. Don't always, assume people are going to tolerate that, because they're not. They are not going to tolerate it. I can tell you that, honestly. They are not going to tolerate it, whatsoever. They're not. They're not going to tolerate it, and that's a fact. And I think anybody watching this knows that. Nobody's going to tolerate it. But anyway, I'll put a timestamp in the description, when I re-upload this maybe, for you guys can check it out. And I do apologize for any delays. But anyway, let's talk some wrestling here, shall we? Now, first of all, with WWE, we know that we are now we're in the post SummerSlam direction, heading towards basically Payback in the first week of September. And a lot of stuff has happened already in the past 48 to 24, basically 48 to 72 hours. First of all, news came out that Endeavor, if you will, along with the WWE executives, wanted a changing of the guard. Yeah, that's right. They wanted a changing of the guard, if you will, when it came to Monday Night Raw. Well, I wouldn't say changing of the guard, but kind of a mixture of, kind of a shake-up, if you will, of the commentary team. And that is, of course, Michael Cole, and Michael Cole is looked at as the voice of WWE, who was on SmackDown primarily for the almost past year. Well, I wouldn't say the past year, but I'd say for the past 6-7 months, along with Wade Barrett. Him and Wade had been moved over to Monday Night Raw. Well, that team of, that Raw team of Kevin Patrick and Corey Graves have been moved over to SmackDown. Now, what's interesting is Michael Cole is going to be the lead announcer on SmackDown as well. He's going to stay there. Well, Patrick will be color commentary, and Graves will be color commentary. Well, Patrick, I think, in my opinion, the reason he's sticking around and he's being placed in this 3-man booth, along with Cole and Graves, is so he can learn from Cole. So he can learn, from Cole. He can basically, leech off, that learning tree, that branch, or leech off a branch, or branch by branch of that learning tree known as Michael Cole, so that he eventually will be ready, to be on his own or with someone like Corey or Wade down the line when Michael takes a step back. I think that's why Kevin Patrick, is on, is kept on there, because they see potential in the guy. They see basically, I think they see potential. What I'm saying is they see potential in the guy, and they probably see a younger Michael Cole, or this modern day version of Michael Cole. So I think that's why they're keeping him on, because he reminds them of Michael, and because he reminds them of him, that's why they're keeping him on board. That way, again, when Michael transitions to the back and everything, down the line, and someone like Patrick, and then maybe eventually Vic Joseph come on, what I'm trying to say is that, okay, the reason Michael Cole is, Kevin Patrick is still there on SmackDown now with Corey and Michael, is because, again, as I was saying, he can learn from the learning tree of Michael Cole, and that when Michael Cole does transition to the backstage and everything, and more of a producer role, coaching role, whatever you want to call it, basically Kevin Patrick will be essentially ready to be once again on his own, or with, just Corey or Wade. And then maybe down the line when Vic Joseph, if he's still around with the company, gets called back up, to be part of it and everything, to be part of Raw or SmackDown, then basically we'll have, we won't have anything to worry about or criticize. And I think that's what Endeavor and those at WWE looked at. And hello, John J. Monyo, thank you for joining me, first time chatter here in the live chat. Logan Paul and Ricochet, I will say this, the way it ended, I think we are going to get a rematch. We are going to get a rematch. I don't know if it'll be a payback, but it might be either Extreme Rules, which I think would be better suited for them. Extreme Rules, or it could be Survivor Series. It'll be one of those two. It won't be a payback yet, but it'll mostly be at Extreme Rules or Survivor Series. So we will get a rematch. Do not worry about that. Just drinking some coffee there. But yeah, that's basically what I think is going to happen there, because you know you can't just be one and done. I mean, you put Ricochet in the number one contenders match that he didn't win on Raw last night, and that's great, but you can't just end it there. You can't just end it there. So I think it's going to be Ricochet and Logan Paul too. Either at Extreme Rules or at Survivor Series. That's what I'm thinking. Because I think what they want to do with Ricochet and Logan Paul is they want to create a rivalry, some kind of like rivalry, if you will, between the two. Just like they're doing with Rollins and Rhodes, they're trying to establish that rivalry and everything. I think that's what they're going to try to do here for Logan Paul and Ricochet. That's just my opinion. But getting back to what I was talking about, essentially, you're looking at, when you look at this announcing, commentating change, if you will, again, like I said, in my opinion, it is done to, no, it's not only done to make the product more appealing, especially during these TV rights deals and everything that people are bringing up as being the legit reason, but it's also being done because, again, if they weren't fond of Kevin Patrick, they would have said, Kevin, we're going to make you, an interviewer now, and that's it, right? They could have done that, or they could have said, you know what, we're going to put you on NXT Level Up as the play-by-play guy there, so you can learn along with the NXT talent there. They could have done that, but they didn't, because they see potential in Kevin Patrick, and I think they look at him as this generation's Michael Cole. When Michael Cole was coming up in the late 90s and early 2000s under JR, Jim Ross, I think they see the same here with Kevin Patrick, and that's why he's staying on board, and why they are specifically putting him, and I do apologize for the lag, guys. I do apologize. But this is why they are specifically putting him, with Michael Cole. They're specifically putting him with Michael Cole right now, because of the fact that they see him basically as a younger Michael Cole, this incarnation's version of Michael Cole. And I do apologize, for the lag, if you're getting any lag here, guys. Again, it's, it's the computer. It does this at times. I don't know why it does this. I do apologize. I think it's the internet sometimes. It's just the internet. It's it's loading and everything, and it just does this at times. It's like, wait, let me do this, let me do that. And it's like, okay, we get it. So the player's not working. I mean, you probably can see me. Let me know if you can see me and all that. You can hear me, so I would appreciate that. But yeah, basically. Oh, there we go. It popped back up. I told you, it's something with the internet. It's like anytime your computer or your PC, your PC or your laptop loads and everything, it's like it's got to stop everything you're doing and be like, wait, let me do this. Like clean. It's like it just does that. And again, it should pop some kind of notification up saying, wait. Sorry, disrupt activity. We're doing update. Is that so hard to do? I'm just saying. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, I think this is why Kevin Patrick, in my opinion, is staying, is staying on, on color commentary. I think that's why he's staying, because he's gonna learn from Michael Cole, like Michael Cole learned from JR. And now look where Michael Cole is and everything because of that. And I think it's because they see potential in Kevin Patrick. They see him as this generation's Michael Cole. And from what people have said, he's a cool guy. He's a cool guy outside the ring. So, I think honestly, him being part of a 3-man booth on SmackDown, on Fox, pretty much a little bit more bigger audience than USA. I think that's a good move. for WWE and for him, because it's going to help him in the long run. Because he has that potential. You can hear it in his voice, in the in the way he presents himself. You can hear it that he has that it factor. He's just got to improve it. He's just got to bring it out more. And I think being around Michael Cole is going to help him out, in my opinion. Now, speaking of Raw last night, a lot of people were praising it because it felt more Triple H NXT like, and it did. It did feel that way, and I've said this on YouTube, and you'll hear this again on YouTube when this goes on over there this weekend, because of course I'm currently suspended right now because of activity, basically providing a link to something that was deemed inappropriate. But what are you gonna do? But anyway, long story short, I've said on YouTube various times that you have to be patient, if you will. That you can't just assume something, even though you have the right to assume it. You can't just assume something, because sooner or later you're going to get proven wrong, or you're going to see that maybe that wasn't the case. Now, I'm not saying that Vince McMahon didn't have a say in a lot of things, in the past several months post WrestleMania. I'm not saying that. I mean, there were some things he did have a say in, and there were things that Triple H had a say in. I'm more inclined to say Triple H had more of a say than people are letting on. Yeah, Vince had final say and all that. There's no doubt. And you could see that, but I think Hunter had more of a final say in what occurs in that ring than anybody else did. I really do. I think he had more of a say. I think he had more of a say what happens out in that ring, segment-wise, wrestling-wise, whatever, than anybody else. The only reason that I believe he always kind of did certain things that felt very Vince-like at times, even when Vince would call in or check in and everything, is because he wanted to keep Vince off his case. This is why sometimes you would see Omos show up, or you would see this happen, and you say, well, that's very Vince-like. It's because if Vince wasn't there in everything, if he wasn't really there, and he wasn't, like, let's say, one night or 1 week not going to have final say and say, hey, I trust your judgment, Triple H, I trust your judgment, Paul. The only reason you would see things that felt very Vince-like, even if, like, during those kind of weeks where he would say, hey, I trust your judgment, I'm going to trust your judgment, you have the final say, Paul. The only reason you would see Paul Levesque, Triple H, do those kind of things that were very Vince-like is to make him happy, to keep him off his back. Like, I could see, in my opinion, Triple H talking with Bruce, being like, okay, how do I keep Vince off my case? Because as well as I do, you can see with your own eyes, Bruce, that I'm doing a better job. Everybody can see it. What would you do? And Bruce probably told him. Well, Bruce probably just took him aside. Not took him aside, but Bruce and Kevin, but mostly Bruce Pritchard, I think, took him aside and say, well, if I was you, I would do this that Vince likes to see happen. I would put this person out there that Vince likes to see put out there, and that's it. Do it in the way Vince would do it with those guys, or those people, or those segments, and we should be good to go. You should have Vince off your back. And it seems once in a while when he would do that, what happens the following week? We get a very more pro Triple H, production on both Raw and SmackDown. So to me, I think, when I look at last night's Raw and everybody praising it as being very Triple H NXT-like, or having an NXT feel to it, yeah, you could see that. You could see that difference. But also the fact that I do believe it confirms that yes, Triple H has been running things mostly, but the only reason we get certain things in the past couple of months, probably more so than ever, in a very Vince-like scenario, or certain people not being pushed when they should be, is because Hunter is making decisions. Like, I'm sure he's on the phone with Johnny Gargano. He's on the phone with this person or that person saying, look, I want to bring you back, but right now, Vince, he's watching things very closely. I'm going to have to hold you back, but don't worry, you'll be on main event. We'll have you go out and do this and everything. And that's it. Triple H knows what to say. He knows what to say to keep the talent from worrying. He knows how to calm the river, if you will. He knows how to calm that river. And that's a good thing to see. That is a good thing to see. And now my computer is not loading right now, so it's something. It's like early portion of the morning. You gotta just deal with it or something. But anyway, and I think that's a good thing to see. I think that's a good thing to hear. That he's at least trying to, in my opinion, I'm not there, but in my opinion, he's trying to calm the storm. Be like, look, this is how it is right now because the old man's watching. I apologize, but don't worry. I'm going to try to do what I do best that you guys like. And then that's it. I think that's the whole scenario right there. I think that's the whole freaking scenario. But as far as Raw went last night, like I said, outside of the new changing commentary, everybody was happy. Everybody enjoyed it. It felt like, when Vince went away. People felt like it was a show that had very little, if any, Vince involvement. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and deny to you guys that, Bruce Pritchard, as someone like JD or anybody else puts it, I'm not going to sit here and deny to you guys that Bruce probably wasn't texting Vince or calling Vince when Triple H wasn't looking and being like, hey, Vince, what do we do about this Friday on SmackDown? Or, hey, Vince, Triple H is making it more about NXT, making it more NXT-like. What do we do? I'm not denying that Bruce probably didn't do that or anything. I'm not denying that. But I guarantee you, Vince is probably telling him, look, he's probably telling him, well, Bruce, as much as I would like to do anything, I honestly can't do anything right now because I'm on medical leave, and if I do anything, even, approve a script or try to say change this, it's going to go against me being on leave, so I can't do that. So I think honestly, he is on the phone with him or he's texting him, and Vince is probably telling him, look, just ride it out until I try to get back there. And we don't know when Vince is going to get back. For all we know, Vince may not be back for at least another year. We don't know how long life-altering, extensive spinal surgery, recovery from that for someone in their late 70s, early 80s. We don't know how long that takes to recover from and everything. Because if you're Vince McMahon, or anybody of any age, you got to go through rehab. You got to go through all that just to get yourself going again. So we don't know how long that's going to be. So as the old saying goes, and people have said this, we might as well enjoy it while we can, hopefully. We might as well enjoy it while we can. But yeah, it was apparently everybody was praising it last night, saying it was a good Monday Night Raw, and hopefully SmackDown will be the same. It'll be the same. Now, as far as NXT goes tonight, we don't know if they're going to take the title off Dominic or not. I mean, Ray's going to be there with, Dragon Lee's corner. So we don't know if they're going to take the belt off Dominic, or what's going to happen. So we'll see. We'll see what they do as far as tonight's NXT goes, because apparently the storyline that now is getting back on track is there is dissension in the Judgment Day. There's dissension, in the Judgment Day and all that. And it's caused Finn to lose his match. It caused him to lose the tag match the 6-man tag last night. And now could it be a trifecta? Could Dominic end up losing his NXT title tonight, his NXT North American title? We'll have to see. But overall, it's been a pretty good 24 hours or less than 24 hours. It's been a pretty good, I'll put it this way, 12 hours, maybe 24 by the time you watch this, for WWE, 48-72, except for the backstage stuff. Because apparently there are some talents that are frustrated with what's going on. Kevin Owens is frustrated for the fact that the tag titles aren't being elevated the way they should be and everything since, WrestleMania. Hopefully that changes. I mean, we got the New Day back, so hopefully that brings an uptake in the tag team division and all that. So hopefully things will start rolling now and everything. But he wasn't happy about that, and he voiced his frustration. Even acknowledged he has about a year and a half left on his contract, and also acknowledged that he may not be wrestling after that after a while. So we'll see. the other news came from the camp of Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus. Becky had a picture she put out there where she was making lemonade and just kind of subtly stating that, might as well try to make lemonade out of these lemons that I can't and everything. So, because she was at home and not at SummerSlam, where she wanted to be. So, she wasn't too thrilled of not being on the card, but Triple H basically answered a question in the press conference where he's like, well, how can people be upset about a match that wasn't on the card when it wasn't advertised? So yeah, they weren't happy. Well, their match will happen next week, be straight up 1-on-1, and then basically we had Sheamus voice his frustration. Basically talk about them not capitalizing on his momentum that he's had, and hopefully they can get back to that. Also taking a subtle shot at Roman Reigns and the whole bloodline situation taking up all the TV time and all that. So yeah, there's some frustration there. There's no doubt. There is frustration. But outside of that frustration, so far everybody has praised and said this has been a good Monday, past 72, 96 hours for WWE. The only negative news potentially is doctors have advised, separate doctors that is, that both Big E and Randy Orton individually don't get back in the ring. Randy wants to get back in the ring. He feels he can still contribute, so he's working his damnedest to get back in there. Big E though, he's been advised, hey, look, you can't go back because of what happened. But if you want to be with the company, find another position. And he's been told that he's been talked about for a color commentary position. Where that would be, with WWE is another story. I mean, he would probably be. I mean, if you want to do 3-man booths again in WWE on both primary shows, then to me the best show in my opinion would be Monday Night Raw. His buddies are there to put him on Raw. That way you have a face color commentator, a heel color commentator and Wade Barrett, and then you have your play-by-play guy with Michael Cole. Same as what you're going to have on SmackDown, right now. But again, like I said, with that, it's more about Kevin Patrick learning under the Michael Cole learning tree, just like Michael Cole learned under the JR learning tree, in my opinion. Anyway, though, outside of that, so far so good, and they are building up to Payback. According to people like JD, it seems that they've already have 8 matches ready to go after last night. Shinsuke against Seth, Chad Gable against Gunther, Cody Rhodes maybe against Dominic again, or maybe even Finn, we'll see, or Damian, we'll see. So a lot of things are rocking and popping, if you will, in the company right now going into Payback. Now, what's interesting, though, is you had Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam shake Cody Rhodes' hand and basically endorse him as being, hey, he is the guy. He's the guy, and everything. And I guess in a way, he turned back into a babyface, maybe. Just my opinion. Basically, get turned back into a babyface. So apparently there are plans, according to reports, he's going to be at the October pay-per-view, which I think is Extreme Rules. I think it's Extreme Rules. I'm not really sure. I have to check again. But he's slated and scheduled for the October Premium Live event. Now, the question, though, is what's the plan going to be for him? Where is he going to show up? Is he going to show up on SmackDown? Is he going to show up on Raw? Who's his opponent going to be? We don't know. But I'm going to tell you this right now. And I know people are not going to like to hear this here on Twitch. Nobody's going to like hearing this on Spotify. And later on next week, nobody's going to like hearing this on SmackDown. But I think, honestly, when you look at the Bloodline situation and what happened at SummerSlam, and some of the things people are pointing out, like how Roman Reigns didn't know Jimmy Uso was going to do what he did. Paul Heyman's reaction, like, He knew what was going to happen, but he didn't tell Roman because maybe he's losing faith in Roman being able to do things on his own as the tribal chief, as the champ. You know, here's what I think is going to happen. And again, I know people don't want to hear this, but I think honestly, what they're leading towards, or heading towards, with all this, with everything going on. I mean, again, we can assume and pretty much have an idea that Paul Heyman is the one that made a deal with Brock Lesnar to take Cody out. And I would not be surprised if Brock shows up on SmackDown this week, if he does, because that would be a huge surprise. He's not advertised, but if he was to do it, I could see Brock revealing to Roman, yeah, you could thank your wise man, my former advocate, for keeping Cody out of your hair, because he made a deal. And maybe he explains that the reason that, and maybe he explains to Roman, if Roman has that questionable look like, what are you talking about? He just says, well, oh, you don't know? Paul Heyman made a deal with me that if I took Cody Rhodes out, he would lift the band that's on me that prevents me from challenging you. And there you go. You can cause a little dissension there, to where now Roman basically will keep a close eye, maybe with Solo, keep a very close eye on Paul and say like, hey, you're not going to make any decisions. You're not going to do anything without my consent. Because basically now you would open you open up the idea of Paul Heyman making a deal with his former client, and maybe going back to his former client because he's losing faith in Roman. And also the fact that he doesn't believe Roman would be able to beat Cody a second time around. So there you go. So yeah, I think, again, what I think is going to lead to, what is leaning towards, and I know people don't want to hear this, is it's going to be another Brock and Roman match. It's going to happen. You can't just sit here and tell me it's not going to happen, because it will. It will happen. You know it. I know it. And again, everybody watching here on Twitch live, or watching later here on Twitch, watching on Spotify, and watching on YouTube, maybe even VENMO, everybody knows that's true. Everybody can see that. Again, I go back to Triple H doing things that would keep Vince McMahon happy. What do you think will keep Vince happy and away from creative, away from Triple H, if you will? Whether we fans want to acknowledge it or not. What do you think would make him happy? Another Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match. You know what's going to happen. Don't deny it. Don't sit here and say, oh, it would never happen. It will. It will happen. And there's no getting around that. There's no hiding that. Okay? There's no hiding that whatsoever. So to me, that's what we're heading for. Another one of those. Because again, we don't have an answer. The only person that has the answer is either, because again, here's the thing. Cody said when he talked to his mom afterwards, and he told his mom about what happened in the ring, post match, that was apparently unplanned, or so they say, according to what people are pointing out. When Brock endorsed Cody, according to Cody, his mom told her that Brock was acknowledging you, a little subtle hint towards Roman Reigns in that situation there. So why would she say that? Or why would Brock do that? Right? There's something there. And I know people don't want to hear it. I know people don't want to, think about another Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match. But you cannot deny that that's the direction they're heading, in some capacity. Whether Roman's champion or not, that's where they're heading. That's where they're heading. And if it's something that they hold off to at least, WrestleMania in Minneapolis, which would be 41 apparently, if that happens, if that becomes official, then you know what? I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if that becomes the main event of that match, and it's a match where both men's career are on the line, and Brock puts Roman over going out. That's what I'm thinking. But we'll see. We'll see what WWE has planned. We'll see what Brock has planned. But to me, it feels like we're heading in that direction, just by the subtle hints and clues, here and there. And again, I know people like JD and Just Alex and all of them, They don't want to hear this. I know they don't want to hear this, but it's a fact. It is an absolute fact that that's where we're heading. Honestly, that is where we're heading. With this whole situation. Because again, one of the hints that Cody brought up in a promo months ago is, Brock Lesnar's advocate or whoever, may convince Brock to attack Cody. He brought that up. Why would he bring that up unless there's something to it? I'm just saying. Guys. I'm just saying. But anyway, with that said, and again, I will put timestamps in here, especially for those on YouTube watching later on. But that said, let's talk about AEW. And let's talk about the frustration. Now, I did a video on this, which you can find on Spotify. You will see on YouTube and everything at the end of this weekend, hopefully. But let's talk about AEW. And let's talk about what's going on in the women's locker room right now, because apparently there's a lot more going on in that locker room than we're being led on to believe. Because LuFisto, who's an independent legend in this business, she's been going, guys, since basically a year before I graduated high school. So she's been going for quite some time. And she recently, as of last year, I think, had a match on one of the AEW Dark shows. I think Dark Elevation or Dark. And basically, she was brought in. She wasn't under contract, but she was hoping she'd be brought in to maybe get hired on as a coach because she's been around for that long. Or maybe even, a coach / in-ring performer. Well, none of that happened because apparently certain people, mostly a lot of fingers pointing towards Ruby Soho, basically painted her as someone not to be trusted. And, well, let's just say she hasn't quite forgotten. And when the Britt Baker Taya Valkyrie match happened a little over a week ago, 2 weeks ago almost, 2 weeks ago this Wednesday, tomorrow night, and the camera panned to that sign saying, book the women's division better, that pretty much became the catalyst, for everybody just, coming out and saying, yeah, Tony Khan, book the division better. Wrestling in general, WWE, AEW, Impact, whatever, book the women's divisions better. And this was enough for LuFisto to latch on to, do an interview with Sean Ross Sapp, and then kind of also bring it up on Twitter, kind of do a tweet tree, a branching tweet tree, if you, not tweed, but a branching tweet tree, if you will. This was enough for her to basically call out what was going on in the locker room. She basically, she talked about cliques, crews, Brit's crew, if you will, and everything. Like, everything is not as it seems, if you will. And everything is not as it seems and all that. She brought up the fact that Dustin Rhodes was cool with her, but then after Dustin talked with Ruby left, and then Dustin had a change of attitude because Ruby and LuFisto have a bit of a history. Not very good history because of, potentially 2 injuries and all that. LuFisto even kind of hints at the fact in the interview, as well as I think in her Twitter tree, if you will, that she did. She even alludes there that, Ruby or somebody in WWE prevented her from getting an opportunity there. So, yeah, it just has not been a good, I guess you could say a good vibe that she's had with the women's locker room of AEW, or some of the people there that used to work for WWE and work on the indies with her. So it hasn't been a very good gelacious vibe. And apparently all the women, and I do apologize for any lag here, guys, all the women, along with AEW World Champion MJF, got onto Twitter, and almost simultaneously, after LuFisto did the interview with Sean Ross Sapp, and I think even put out those tweets, they blasted her. They went after her and everything. MJF probably had the stinger of the whole replying and everything, according to a lot of people. But they went after her, and everybody from JD from NY206, his Dynamite co-host for the reviews, Heal Jesse, Shaitan Mark, just Alex of Alex's World, Solomonster, every single one of them basically felt that it was just too coincidental that all these women simultaneously, including MJF, were chiming in and basically blasting LuFisto for what she said, saying you're wrong, it's a lie, da 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 da, and everything. And it's like, and it's like, to them it's understandable if you do it one at a time, like every few hours or maybe every few minutes or every 15 to 30 minutes, but not back to back to back. So they feel that like there was some kind of marching order, if you will, given to them by, either Tony Khan or the higher ups at AEW to basically, put this woman in her place. And apparently that's what they tried to do. And what did LuFisto do? She said something else, basically said something along the lines of, well, which, in my opinion, the way I interpreted it, she basically said something along the lines of, well, all you're doing, she didn't exactly say it, but like I said, the way I interpreted it, is her response was, you're just proving me right, and that's all I'm going to say, and then she deactivated her Twitter. And that's it. Now, I'm pretty sure she'll bring her Twitter back up later on, but she deactivated it right now because I think, honestly, she doesn't want to hear any of the bull crap coming from them, any of the lies coming from them, because a lot of people are feeling that the only reason they're doing this is to make things seem hunky-dory, hunky-dory, if you will, going into All In, the biggest show in company history, where they're going to shatter a lot of records, legitimately or not legitimately, depending on how you look at it. But, she basically, in my opinion, just said, okay, shoot your mouths off, you're just proving me right, and everything, I'll see you later, and she deactivated. She'll probably be back after it calms down, but, yeah, it's like, this does not paint the women's locker room, in a good light. It doesn't. This even kind of correlates with what happened with Thunder Rosa a year ago, and the whole Britt Baker thing there, and Britt still doesn't personally like Thunder Rosa. And then even before that, the whole Big Swole situation. Basically the wordage of those two, along with what the LuFisto is saying, all very identical. Like there is something there that doesn't feel like, the truth is being told. Like the truth is in the middle, but leaning more in favor of those that are coming out and saying these things against the locker room. And it doesn't paint the AEW women's locker room, if not the overall locker room in general, in a very good light. So Tony Khan does have to take care of this, and I guarantee you, if this reaches WBD, if this reaches Kathleen Finch, if this reaches David Zaslav, who are investing billions and billions of dollars into this company, if you will, giving them another show and all that, to focus more on CM Punk and everything, and also to show that they have trust in this company. If word gets to them about what's going on behind the scenes, they, even though it might, attract them to be like, hey, we can bring back All Access and, make it to where we will hide the cameras and nobody will actually see what's going on until later. Even though that might attract them to do something like that, I guarantee you it's not going to make them look good, because people will then criticize them, especially those that they make deals with, like, because, people they make deals with, and, because those people might be like, well, why are you investing in this AEW company? It's not worth investing in, because nobody's putting their foot down and putting people in their place and stuff like that. It's one of those situations to where, you don't know. It's one of those situations to where, you don't know what, David Zaslav or Kathleen Finch will do if word gets to them about what's going on. That is why you're having, apparently, according to some people, a lot of the people in the AEW locker room being given marching orders, if you will, to simultaneously try to quiet LuFisto. And all LuFisto basically did at the end was say, okay, fine. You want to try to cry me down? Not a problem. You know, you're just proving me right, so I'm out. She don't want to deal with it. She don't want to deal with it. So to me, honestly, so to me, honestly, it's one of those situations to where, if I'm Tony Khan, I gather a team together, and I say, enough of this crap. Okay, enough of this. We are a family. We are a team. We need to get along. We need to learn to put our differences aside. We need to squash our beef and do what's right for this company. Basically the same things people want him to do with CM Punk and the Elite, CM Punk and Kenny Omega, and all that. And it looks like we're heading in that direction if what is being hinted at for All In, if not what's going to happen tomorrow night. Well, not tomorrow night, but on or whenever it happens mostly All In, especially if what's going to happen there becomes a reality. So, if he can get that to actually happen, then in my opinion, it shouldn't be hard for someone like Tony Khan and his crew to get the women together and say, enough of this crap. If you guys don't want to work together, you either have two choices. Choose to work on Collision and Dynamite exclusively away from each other, or you can just hit the bricks, and be out of here. And that's it. If I'm him, I give him that choice. I tell Ruby Soho, for example, when Thunder Rosa comes back, there's no doubt she'll probably end up on Collision. There's no doubt. But if I'm Tony Khan and I want to put the belt back on Thunder Rosa down the line when she comes, after she's been back for a while, but the person that has an agenda against her is on, is on a show that she may have to be on, then if I'm Tony Khan, I tell Britt Baker, Britt, look, squash this beef with Thunder Rosa right now, or else there's the door. Or just go and work on Collision or whatever. That's what I would do. But apparently, everybody is more inclined, when you really get down to it, more people are inclined to believe what, they're more inclined to believe what, what LaFisto is saying, over this than anybody else. Even though she had just a brief cup of tea in there, people are more willing to believe what she's saying than they are over what, Britt Baker and, Ruby Soho and all of them are saying. They're more willing to believe what they're bringing up, or she's bringing up, than anything else. And in turn, they're also more willing to believe things like what Thunder Rosa has said about the locker room. They're more, willing to believe things that Big Swole has said about the locker room. They're more inclined to favor them. That's the question. And that's the thing, I should say, not the question. But they're more in favor to support them and believe them than they are, the entire women's locker room of AEW. If not the entire locker room of that company, period. They're more willing to believe them than anything else. Because it's like you would think Tony Khan wanting the most impressive, massive roster, most elite roster, if you will, in the business. You think that would be a given for him to want to say, hey, I want the best one of the best indie women's wrestlers in the business under contract as a coach and in-ring performer in LaFisto. You think that would be basically instant, gratification, like, oh, this is the person I want. This is the person I need to have in my employment. You think that would be easy pickings for him. But it's not. You pass up on it. And now, more than likely, if people want to say WWE is, petty sometimes, WWE will be like, hey, you don't want LaFisto? We'll pick her up. And they would. They would pick her up. Legitimately. They would pick her up legitimately. But again, people are more inclined, to believe these people that have, experienced AEW, as a contracted talent or just someone trying to get in, they're willing to believe them more than anybody else. They really are, and that is a shame. That is a shame, especially as you're heading into your biggest show of the year. That is a shame. So, I don't blame, I don't blame, you know, a lot of the fans for being more inclined to believe LuFisto and the likes of Big Swole and Thunder Rosa than the rest of that locker room. I don't blame them. They're more inclined to believe them over the locker room. But yeah, it's one of those situations to where if I'm Tony Khan, and I don't want this making major news because it may not get to them right away, but it's gonna get to them soon. If I'm Tony Khan and I do not want, honest truth, if I do not want David Zaslav, if I do not want Kathleen Finch, the people that are investing in me, in my company, with WBD, if I don't want them hearing about this more so than ever, then I address this. I take the people in the locker room and I talk to them. Now, apparently, according to LuFisto, that's because she's been in touch with some people. Apparently, that's what Tony Khan did, and Tony Khan basically told him, "Look, women's wrestling doesn't draw. You guys don't draw." And for people to hear that, it's for people, for the women in that roster to hear that, it's like, we're trusting you, Tony. You're signing us to contract, and yet you're telling us we can't draw. That's not good. Now, some might say that he's doing that to motivate them, and maybe that's what it is. But apparently, he doesn't believe women can draw. And what's funny is you had Hikaru Shida and Tony Storm main event the 200 Dynamite, and people would say that's a reaction. That's an instant reaction by Tony Khan being like, people know about what I said, or people are hearing about what I said. I need to fix that. And that's probably what he did. He probably said, people are hearing things. I don't want them to think negative of me. I don't want them to think I'm totally against the women. I'm going to give them what they want. And that's probably what he did. I'm not saying, that's exactly what he thought, or somebody came to him and said, "Hey, you got to do this." People are saying things. But still, it's kind of too coincidental. And then you see what's going on with SummerSlam. You saw what was going on with Monday Night Raw for WWE. Again, you don't think WWE's not going to take advantage of that and say, "Okay, Tony, you don't want to book your women properly? I'll show you how it's done." And that's why we saw what we did. And we're probably going to see that more. The thing is, what's going on with the women's division, that does need to be addressed. And Tony Khan, he needs to meet with the women again. And he needs to apologize to them and say, "Look, I didn't mean by saying you don't draw. I'm just saying try better. All I'm suggesting is try to do better so that you can get people talking about you more than the men." In other words, encourage them to be like, "Hey, prove you're better than us men. Prove it by going out there and doing things we wouldn't do, doing things and saying things, having matches that we wouldn't do," or something like that. That's what I would do if I'm Tony Khan. But yeah, it doesn't paint the AEW women's locker room in a good light. It really doesn't. As far as the rest of AEW goes, again, we're heading into All In, and apparently there are a couple of matches. Hopefully, I don't get no lag here. If I do apologize. Let me try to get this here. I think they have some matches lined up. Let me see if they do. Well, they only have one right now. But apparently, and that's MJF and Adam Cole, but apparently they are hinting at, doing Samoa Joe and CM Punk, maybe for the Real World Champion, maybe Real World Championship, and maybe Samoa Joe's television title. That seems like a direction they're heading in, because Joe issued the challenge, and it does look like we're going to get the Bucks against FTR as well. So that does look like the direction we're heading. And with Hikaru Shida becoming a two-time champion, even though her reign may not last long, I think what we're heading towards is Shida against Saraya, for the women's championship as well, and maybe Chris Statlander against, I'm assuming, Tony Storm for the TBS title. That's what I'm thinking. It could be the other way around, but more than likely Saraya and basically Hikaru Shida for the women's title, and then Statlander and Tony Storm for the TBS title. That's what I think the direction we're heading in right there. I think that's the direction we're heading in right now. We are heading towards now. They haven't made it official yet, but it does look like we're heading to the dismantling of the JAS, the Jericho Appreciation Society. Which if that happens, then okay, fine. Jericho goes from one stable to another. But according to reports, it looks like we may get Jericho and Ospreay. So if that happens, then maybe that means Jericho is going to go face again, and by extension, the JAS is going to go face as well. But we'll see. We will see. That, or maybe the JAS turns on Jericho, and that's the family Don Callis is alluding to. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah, they are trying to build momentum to All In, which is good. That's the biggest show of the year. They've got about 80,000 plus tickets already sold, more to probably be sold, and everything. And if you saw the stadium graphic, if you will, basically the seating chart, and you see all those seats where tickets are sold for, or the tickets are being sold for, that's massive. And then just how the stage is set up, that's massive. So, it's good on them to do that. But we'll see where they go for. We'll see what happens. But it does look like we got a couple of matches lined up, like I mentioned, for All In, which is great. It is tremendous, in my opinion. Great and tremendous. Now, outside of that, we'll just have to see what they plan to do and everything. Moving. Now, what I'm trying to say is, outside of that, we'll just have to wait and see what else they're going to have planned and everything for that. Where does Kenny Omega fit into this and everything? Is he going to be part of the match with Jericho and Ospreay? Will it turn into a triple threat three-way dance for the IWGP US title, or will it just be one-on-one? I'm thinking it might be a three-way dance. We shall see. But more than likely we'll get Omega and Takeshita. Takeshita, if you will. Basically we'll get Takeshita and Omega, instead at All In. But we'll see. We'll see what they got planned and everything going forward down the line. But honestly, again, right now, it looks like along with MJF and Adam Cole, we're going to have, for the Real World's Championship, the CM Punk's title, Punk and Joe. We're going to have FTR and the Young Bucks. We're going to have Hikaru Shida against Saraya, Chris Statlander against Tony Storm. In my opinion, that could be another one. Because again, Tony Storm, excuse me, and I do apologize for any lag there. Yeah, my thing's loading again. I don't know why it does that at times. It's almost like it's trying to, like I said, trying to do an update and all that. So I do apologize for any lag here, guys. I do apologize. But, like I said, the matches right now that are going to join Adam Cole and MJF, it look like going to be CM Punk, Samoa Joe, Young Bucks, FTR, Hikaru Shida and Saraya, Chris Statlander and Tony Storm for the TBS title, because Tony Storm, like Saraya, is a UK wrestler, or from the UK. And we're probably either going to get Kenny Omega and Takeshita, or Takeshita one-on-one, and Chris Jericho and Will Ospreay 1-on-1. So, looks like definitely looks like the card is being built up in a big way, and can't wait for that. As far as All Out goes, we only have one match for that. That's Luchasaurus and Darby Allin for the TNT title. And I think based on what happens at All In, whatever ramifications are going to happen there will be felt at All Out. So yeah, AEW's got a lot to build towards for this big show in London, as well as try to build off that show, or as well as simultaneously build to All Out the following week. So they got a lot to do as well. They definitely got a lot to do. The one thing that I think Tony Khan needs to address is try to give the U.S. people a bundle package. Because right now, according to Xfinity and some other cable outlets, both shows are their own individual pay-per-views, both $50 a pop, and that's not a good sign in my opinion. If you want to get people invested in your product, even especially now that you're in your going into your 5th year officially in October, 5 years. Well, not 5 years, but 4 years, I should say. You're going into your 4th year officially on the Turner Networks in October and everything. So, if I'm Tony Khan, I talk to the WBD and I try to work out a bundle where, okay, you want them to pay $50 for All In, let's slash the price in half for All Out and give that to them for $25. To me, that's more reasonable. $75 altogether instead of $100. More reasonable, in my opinion. I do apologize for any light, guys. But, yeah. That's what I think Tony Khan needs to do. That's what I think he needs to do. Let me know if you agree with me or not on that. But anyway, though, guys, that's pretty much all I'm going to say for AEW and overall for wrestling in general. Let me know what your thoughts are when you get a chance. Again, this will be on YouTube at the end of this weekend, going into next weekend, because I'm currently suspended from them because of linking one of my stories that had something a cover image, if you will, that was not appropriate. So I'll explain more about that down the line of what's going on there. But yeah, basically, let me know what your thoughts are when you get a chance. In the comments, if there are comment sections down here, let me know what your thoughts are. Watching my podcast, watching this on my BW Roses Discussions podcast on Spotify and other outlets, but mostly Spotify because that helps me out in a big way. Also, check out the Teespring store. The links will be provided in the profile where you can check me out as well. VENMO, my Teespring store, Patreon. It'd be all greatly appreciated. But guys, that's all I'm going to say for right now. Thank you all for joining me on this Tuesday. And until next time, I will talk to you all later.